The Halls of Fame is brought to you by Halls. Get Halls and get going. And by Rolaids. R-O-L-A-I-D-S spells relief.
He's responsible for instituting the wishbone offense and in turn restoring a football dynasty. Hello again, everybody. I'm Fran Healy and welcome to the Halls of Fame. Coming up, we'll chat with the all-time winningest coach in Oklahoma history, Barry Switzer. Barry, tell us about your childhood.
Grew up in southern Arkansas. Was born in southern Arkansas. We moved. My father was 4F. He had a hearing problem, so he wasn't drafted in the Second World War, World War II. We all moved to California. It was an exodus of people from Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas going out there to work in the shipyards and airplane factories. And so I started school in California, Long Beach. Moved back to Arkansas after the war and grew up in a little southern community, about 3,000 people, and graduated high school in the town of Crossett and went to the University of Arkansas to play football.
Tell us about high school, playing football in high school.
I was a guard, linebacker. I could run pretty good, and I was a good tackler, pretty good foot athlete, and I was the defensive lineman of the year in the state of Arkansas, and was recruited by a lot of schools, LSU. Charlie McClendon was an assistant coach for Paul Dietzel. I remember I nearly went to LSU because it was 6-7 hours closer than University of Arkansas available. But I ended up being recruited under Bowden Wyatt to go play at Arkansas, but Bowden left and went to Tennessee, and I ended up coming under Jack Mitchell and played for Jack a couple of years, and he left and went to Kansas. Then Frank Broyles comes. So I had 3 different coaches in my experience in college. So recruited by Bowden and played for Jack and Frank.
What was it like getting recruited back then?
Well, you know, it's college coach comes through every once in a while and gets you out of class and tells you about you know, their program. It's been a little bit, it's not how I recruited, I guarantee you. The recruitment's a lot different today. I remember George Cole coming to see me. He took me out to a truck stop, Wagon Wheel Cafe. He bought me a chicken fried steak, and he says, you know, if you come to the University of Arkansas, he says, we'll give you a bed to sleep in, and we'll give you a plate to eat out of. As long as you're good, we won't break your plate, and you'll have a place to sleep. So I said, that sounded like a pretty good deal to me. So you don't recruit that way anymore. You won't get many kids.
Now you decide to go to Arkansas. Then what happened?
Well, I went to Arkansas, and like all young freshmen, you struggle through that adjustment period. You go through, you get that faraway look in your eyes. You want to transfer, you want to go back home, you want to take the easy way out. But I fought through it and ended up being a player, lettered 3 years, captain the Southwest Conference Championship team for Frank, and got my degree, realized why I was there. First couple of years I wasn't a very good student, then I realized that why we were in college and I wanted to get a degree, so I ended up getting a degree in business, and back then you had to go to service. You had to spend 2 years in military service or go a 6-month program, and I wish they still had that today for kids, 18-year-old kids. But I went in service, and I was going to go back to law school, and Frank taught me into coaching, going to get into coaching. And I was single, living in an athletic dormitory, and ended up being a football coach. I mean, I took that road. You know, instead of going to law school like my brother did, I ended up coaching profession.
You ever look back how your life would have been different if you went to law school?
Yeah, you take certain roads you travel in life. You know, you come along, you make certain decisions that take you down different paths. And I think about that phone call that Frank Broyles called me when I was stationed in Aberdeen, Maryland, and during my service tenure, and I'd graduated doing my service responsibility, and I got a phone call from Dixie White, the offensive line coach at Arkansas that I'd played for, and he wanted to know if I wanted to come back and coach the next fall. They had a position for me. And I said, well, I'll go try it. You know, I wasn't in a hurry. I was young and 21, 22 years old, and I said, well, I'll try that for a year. If I like it, I'll stay with it. If not, I'll go on to law school. But got swept up in coaching. We were very successful in Arkansas under Frank, and we were winning championships, going to the Cotton Bowls and Sugar Bowls. So, you know, it was an exciting time for the Arkansas program.
What was that like, first job coaching?
It didn't pay as much. Frank, I remember, I think I made $400 a month living in the dorm, which was good back then. I mean, it was a pretty good job, but that was 1960, 61, 62. I was a young single coach on Frank's staff. Then got married in 1964, and he gave me a big raise then. I think I got $5,000 a year. So I, you know, moved on and got to Oklahoma. Many coaches move around a lot of different schools, but I was only at 2 schools, Arkansas and Oklahoma, in my career, so it's kind of unusual. And Jim McKenzie died a tragic death in 1967, a heart attack, massive heart attack, April 26, 1967. Chuck Fairbanks was named the head coach, and I was the offensive coordinator, and Chuck went in the pro ball in 1972, and I got the head job at Oklahoma then. And we had a nucleus of great talent, had a great staff. So Chuck left, and everybody stayed intact, and coaches and the system was already in place.
You mentioned earlier when you came out, you went into the military, and you said it's too bad they still don't have that. What do you mean?
Well, I think that the one great thing that sports and our military services gives young men is discipline. I think young men today, this country would certainly be, I think, in a lot better shape morale-wise and as far as the discipline in our structure in our society if kids had to go spend 2 years in military service. Damn sure wouldn't hurt them. It might make a man out of them and learn some, you know, just those values that I think we're all taught back in my era when I came along, that, you know, just you know how to say yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am, and if you didn't, you got slapped. So I think kids need to do that again today.
Is there as much pressure on a coach at an Oklahoma or Notre Dame as there is on a professional coach?
Not always pressure at every level. It doesn't, you know, you got to win at every level. I coached in the pro. I love the college game. I just think it's a much better game. I enjoyed it much better. We have more control. College coaches have more control than you do in professional football. You know, both have control, but what I mean, it's you're dealing with a lot of rich young men that, you know, that when I read about a guy says, I'll play when I want to play, and you're paying him $18 million. I read Randy Moss the other day. He says, I'll play when I want to play. And you're giving a guy $75 million and you give him $18 million, and I'm paying you that, and you're going to play when you want to play? It don't work that way. You know, you go out and give me a day's work every time you go out there. But it's that attitude. That's why it's just a different game. And college game was a great game, and enjoyed working with the product, 18, 19-year-old men versus some guys that are spoiled.
What was the most difficult thing about coaching Oklahoma?
The most difficult thing is that in coaching in college, I don't know whether it's Oklahoma or anywhere, is that it's a 365-day job. You're dealing with a couple of hundred football players. Basketball, you only have about 15, but in football, you got a couple hundred in the year. In most cases, it's a negative situation you're dealing with a lot of times. And in most cases,
for example,
grades, summer school, getting jobs, dormitory, discipline, kids coming to you, they only come to you when they got a personal crisis. They come in and sit down. They don't ever come in and sit down from my desk and say, hey, Coach, I made an A on test today. They usually come in there sitting down. They got girlfriends pregnant, the death in the family, something that you as a coach, because he's a member of your family, you have to deal with, and give him advice, try to help him in those certain situations. And so there are a lot of pluses, but there are a lot of times that you heard coaches want burn out and just run out of gas. That's why. I mean, just because of having to deal with a lot of those situations.
How does a coach control the situation, keep away from a problem? For example, it's beyond my comprehension how they would say, this coach is responsible because this kid did something on Friday night. I mean, is the coach going to follow him around?
First of all, I think we're all accountable for our own actions and behavior. I don't know why. I don't know why the media or someone else would think that any individual is responsible for the actions, behavior of some other individual. It just doesn't work that way. We all know right and wrong. You know, we coaches do enough good talks. We all give those thousands of do good talks to your players. It takes hold of some and doesn't of some. And when kids screw up, we all pay a tremendous price for it. You know, everybody, and that's what's tragic about it. I have 4 or 5 kids at the end of my career at Oklahoma that were involved in felonies that reflected on hundreds of great young men and negatively, and that's what was tragic about it. It was that just because of their actions and behavior, it influenced and affected so many other kids, and that's wrong. We should be evaluated or held accountable for that. But we are sometimes.
Was there any high school football player you wanted badly and didn't get, and he went on to become a star?
Oh, yes. Yes. Earl.
It's still alive,
Earl Campbell. I thought we were going to get Earl. Earl was one of the greatest players ever played. Eric Dickerson. I mean, all the great ones in Texas. I recruited every one of them. You know, we didn't go after just a mediocre player. Oklahoma attracted great players. Great things happened. We were winning, going to bowl games. We were winning national championships. We were ranked one of the top teams every year in college football. Every kid in the country listened to us. We knocked on their door, they would listen. So we went after the best, but the ones that just jump out at me, Earl Campbell and Eric Dickerson, you know, 2 great football players that I thought we'd get.
When you think of football in this country, you think of one of the schools to be Oklahoma and one of the football teams professionally to be Dallas Cowboys. Tell us the difference in coaching the Cowboys as opposed to coaching Oklahoma.
You know, coaching's the same. Your games are the same. You know, it's your same principles and philosophy work at both levels. Nothing changes there. It's you're a little more sophisticated at the pro level because you get to spend all your time with the athletes preparing them. You can do more things, and they're a better product because they're the best of the best in professional football. And so I enjoyed it. It's a game that you have a lot of outstanding players, that they play hard and take pride in their competitors, but it was something that I didn't enjoy as much as I did college.
Why?
Just as the product you're dealing with, first of all, you have more control in college. You're the dictator. In pro football, there are guys you can't touch because they're the contracts they have. They're untouchables because they're given a contract and you're paid so much money up front under the cap that you have to manage and you have to work with, regardless of your relationship with them, because you can't get rid of them. You can't tell them that you just traded them to someone else. It doesn't work that way on the cap system. So you have to deal with personalities and egos that you don't have to do on the college level. You know, they aren't born yet. They hadn't been created.
When you dealt with Jerry Jones and you dealt with these contracts, did you ever have disagreements about, okay, look, this player shouldn't be on he should not be on the team, and a guy like Jerry Jones say, well, he has to be on it because he's making this kind of money?
No, we never had those situations. You know, usually, you know, when you give a guy that kind of money, he's a good player. You know that. But you got guys sometimes that are just not very smart and make a lot of money, and they maybe cause problems in the locker room. Their mouths create problems for you, and you just want to snatch them and grab them, and, you know, but you can't, and it's a different situation. Jerry was never a problem. I've got along great with Jerry. The media's made Jerry out to be something he's really not. Jerry doesn't meddle. He doesn't get involved in football and never has. But the media likes to think that that's the problem, the Dallas Cowboys. And it's not Jerry Jones. You know, they won 3 Super Bowls with him. Was he the problem then? You know, and obviously they had talent. They had good players. They lost all those players, and they're old, and they're a young team again. But Jerry's not the problem.
Best football player you ever coached, college or professional?
Leroy Selman. Leroy Selman was the greatest player that I ever coached. I've had a lot of coaches in professional football tell me that Wade Phillips, Bum's son, Wade says Leroy Selman's the best player he'd seen. Pretty strong statement. You know, he's coached in the league a long time. He played Tampa Bay, and a lot of people don't realize it, but they didn't win a game. I think they lost about 29 in a row, but he was all pro every year. Players picked him all pro by the players, and you know, he was truly one of the great players to play the game.
Most intimidating player you ever coached?
Well, Earl Campbell, guy we had to play against. Earl Campbell was the most intimidating player, but you know, he was probably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. In high school, college, and pro, Earl Campbell was a Brahma bull. He was a stud, and I got to see him at all those levels, and I wished we'd gotten him. I told Earl many times, I said, Earl, if you'd come to Oklahoma, we might have gone undefeated and won a couple of national championships, which we did. I said, I don't even know whether you'd helped us or not. You couldn't have made us any better.
In the college ranks, did you make adjustments over the years as far as your approach, your personality?
Sure you do. I was, as years went on, you become more experienced, more mature. You don't make quick, hasty decisions that I did when I was young, impulsive decisions. I kicked a kid off a team. I look back on that and I think how ridiculous it was to remove a kid from a team of a national championship game against Michigan in the Orange Bowl. Great player, played about 10 years pro football. Horace Ivory, running back for New England Patriots. I kicked him off the football team the week before the game because he had his girlfriend in the room. Now think about that. Now does that deserve to kick? But I was a young coach, and it was a rule, stupid rule, you know.
Whose rule?
Well, actually it wasn't mine. It was our counselor, old Port Robinson, the old wrestling coach that run the dorms. It was his rule, and so I had to go along with it. It was stupid. Kid came back next year. He was a player. He was just his junior year. You know, he came back and had a great senior year for me. But stupid things like that, you don't do that today.
Is it tougher to coach college football today than ever before?
Oh, I don't know if it's any tougher. I think it's been the same all along. Kids are more challenging today. I know when I grew up, when I played, coaches would ask you to do certain things. You never questioned authority, you did them. And kids are more likely to question or not do it because they disagree with you. No one ever challenged the coach before. When I grew up, you did what you were told to do. Hope that he was right.
College Football Hall of Fame, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's, you know, the greatest honor you can have in this game, the college game. You know, there's no greater stage, no greater reward to be in the College Football Hall of Fame as a player, as a coach. It epitomizes all the success and efforts that all assistant coaches and players that you represent, you know, what they put into the game. You get the recognition for it, but it's because of a lot of efforts of a lot of other people.
What stands out in your mind as a glowing moment that you had many at Oklahoma, but one more than any of them?
I walked onto the field in 1989. I had resigned at the University of Oklahoma. And it had been a tough year. I had finished my career, and it was a U.S. Olympic Festival was held in Owen Field. And I was standing in the ramp waiting to be introduced along with, you know, FloJo was there, every top athlete in the country, Olympic Festival, President Reagan was there, Bob Hope was there. I mean, it was a tremendous thing for Oklahoma. And we were 75,000 people in the stands. And I guess when I walked onto the field and they introduced me, I didn't know what to expect because of what had happened, and I thought it'd be positive. But I remember the applause and the roar that I got from the fans and all it made me realize that what I'd accomplished at Oklahoma meant a lot, so much to Oklahomans, and that I was still someone that they cared for. And I think that moment right there, I realized what the success I had enjoyed in the program, what it meant for me and the state of Oklahoma.
Why is the school, Oklahoma, such a powerhouse in football?
Well, I think Bud created the monster. Bud Wilkinson and all the great success he enjoyed in the late 40s, 50s at Oklahoma. It built a tradition, and when you have a product to sell, you got a vehicle, a product to go sell to young men, kids want to come be a part of something like that. You can't build a tradition overnight. It takes years and years and years of success, and that's what Bud created, and I was able to continue it, and Bud made my job a lot easier because of the success that he enjoyed. It was easier for me to sell Oklahoma in the program. Kids grew up in Oklahoma. Football's important. Texas, football's important in the communities. Very important, and there are a lot of great athletes in the state of Texas. A lot of Oklahoma played good high school football. Coaches do a good job in that state, and the state doesn't produce about 10 or 12 really good players a year, but I was able to get those, every one of them, and then get 10 or 12 from Texas, great athletes, and then you're in the hunt for the national championship.
Was it tough to leave coaching completely?
Yeah, because it was all I'd ever done. You know, I got out when I was 52, so it was, you know, we were kind of lost for a while, but I was able to handle it and do other things.
These days, Barry Switzer contributes his time and efforts to several causes such as the Special Olympics, the Society to Prevent Blindness, and scholarship programs for minority students. For the Halls of Fame, I'm Fran Healy. So long, everybody.